Good morning, Dr. Tish. Those of you who missed last night missed a treat. The woman who sat at the door. In the spirit of our great Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, he said, "I'm tired of sailing my little boat far inside the harbor bar, but I want to go out where the big ships float, out on the deep where the great ones are. But should my frail craft prove too slight, by waves that toss those billows o'er, I'd rather go down in the stirring fight than drowse to death at the sheltered shore." It is indeed an honor as well as a privilege to stand before you tonight, this morning rather, to extend my greetings on behalf of the great state of Alabama, the birthplace of the Civil Rights Movement, the home of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the cradle of the Confederacy, the death and defeat of Governor George C. Wallace, ground zero for the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955, and Bloody Sunday. The late great Congressman John Lewis and Rosa Parks and Coretta Scott King and Michael Donnell and Hank Aaron and the 4 little girls who were killed in the church in Birmingham. They lost their lives, but we should never forget. Black lives mattered then, and they matter now. Now on to the business at hand. If you missed my introduction last night, here it is. We're going to start over. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to present to some and introduce to others someone I think you should know. She is the undisputed conscience of the Democratic National Committee and the forever fearless, fundamentally free First Lady of the Democratic National Committee's Black Caucus. She stands as a true testament of the tenacious talents of black women in power, from the schoolhouse to the state house to the courthouse, and even to the White House. And even to the White House. And even to the White House. She's one of those ones who believe in making a way out of nowhere. She stands among the giants of the modern day history, demanding a seat at the table in the tenor and tone of those who can no longer speak for themselves. Be it Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, or Sonia Massey. And in the same spirit of the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, she has dedicated her life to serving the least of these, wherein compassion and compromise has taken a backseat to weird and worldly wickedness. But she understands the assignment. She has mastered the art of being universal in her appeal, reasonable in her approach, far-reaching in her vision, practical in her application, and new and modern in her state's womanship. She's just simply one of those ones who believe that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And when this nation kneeled on the brink of disaster and turned its back on our democracy and a woman's right to choose, our chairlady didn't just simply sit on the sidelines, but she crisscrossed the country and galvanized black leaders and educated black voters. And when the dust was settled and the midterms were called, we won. She won. Black women won. Native Americans won. The United States Congress won. And thanks to the invincible vintage version, we all won. While a native of the great state of Michigan, our First Lady is a world traveler and a Harlem Globetrotter, having double diplomatic delegations to Taiwan, representing 2 American presidents, Bill Clinton and our dear brother, Barack Hussein Obama. She has pre-clearance to fly aboard Air Force One. She has pre-clearance to fly aboard Air Force One. She has pre-clearance to fly aboard Air Force One, and she's been inside the White House more times than the Secret Service. Did I fail to mention that it is a common commotion in her community to find presidents and presidential hopefuls congregating in her living room, not at the White House, but in her living room, in her house? She's simply one of those ones, someone I think you should really know. She's listed among the greats on the roster of who's who, not just in America, but around the world. She was the first African-American woman to serve as chairlady of the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus, and she also received the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Lifetime Achievement Award, Best and the Brightest in Business. And to further extend her legacy of leadership, on any given day, take your children, grandchildren, great-great-grands to the Library of Congress, and you can find her literary writings there. A treasure in this country for the ages, her writings. And yet at the end of the day, her personal claim to fame is nothing greater than a fervent faith in God, 2 supportive sons, and 1 heroic husband. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed honor and my black job today. Yep, I got a job. It is my esteemed honor and my black job today to present to you on this special occasion the one and only, the Renaissance woman, the real deal, the unbought and unbossed, the incomparable vintage chairlady of the Democratic National Committee's Black Caucus, the Honorable Virgie M. Rollins. Thank you. All right, all right.
Come on. Come on. You know, you are too much. Oh, my God. That's a frustrated preacher, okay? Oh, my God. Because my governor is here and she got to go before I give my remarks. But thank you, Vice Chair Charlie Stanton. I will introduce my executive committee, but I have to bring before you our governor because she got to run, and I'm just happy that you can make our caucus, and you can see another part of my world other than the Women's Caucus luncheon, okay? So give a warm welcome to Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Big Gretch from Michigan.
Love that introduction. Good morning. All right, good morning, Black Caucus. You ready for this week? Me too. You know, I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. I'm not going to speak long. I know you've got a big agenda and you got a lot of folks coming in to come visit with you this morning because we all recognize this caucus matters. The work that happens in this room could very well decide the fate of every American in this country. And we cannot for 1 second, especially like a state from Michigan, forget how important the work we do every day between now and Election Day is. I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know this is a room of people who get it better than anyone. The consequences of elections matter. We know that the guy who's running against our standard bearer, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we know that Donald Trump is the one who wants to divide us, who wants to belittle us, who wants to just serve himself. Trust me, I know, as that woman from Michigan, which is the insult he gave to me. But it's not an insult, because here's what I know. Like all women in Michigan and across this country, we are tough and we do not suffer fools, and that ain't about to change now. Am I right? So we know this is going to be a close election. As high and excited as we are, as the energy we're seeing across the country, as people who are reaching out to volunteer or make contributions, who maybe had been on the sidelines before, it feels good. But we cannot for a second lose sight of the fact that this is going to be a tough challenge. As a person coming from the state of Michigan, the most difficult, I think, of all the swing states, we in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania have such an important outsized voice. And that's why the Black Caucus is so important. Every year this caucus is important, but this year as we think about talking to our family and our friends and our fellow parishioners and our neighbors, those short conversations could have a profound impact on the outcome of this election. And so I just want to thank you for the work that you do. I know that I have benefited immensely from so many of the leaders in this room. I thank you for your friendship and your leadership, and I want you to know, as we lock arms and march toward November 5th, I'm not going to lose a beat, and I know no one in this room is either, and we got to pull more people in. But when we do that, we win. When we do that, we can celebrate by saying, Madam President, the day after this election. When we do that, We have leadership that cares about an agenda that creates a path to prosperity for every person, that protects and respects all people under the law, that makes this a place where future generations can live the dream that this whole foundation of this democracy was built on. But we got work to do. So let's enjoy this week. Let's roll up our sleeves. Remember to eat a vegetable on occasion. Drink a little bit of water and keep doing the work. I love you and thank you so much. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Virgie.
I just want to say, I want to introduce, you met my vice chair of the DNC Black Caucus, Dr. Allison Stevens from Nevada Stand. Dr. Stevens is our secretary. The Honorable Donna Christian from the Virgin Islands is our Eastern Regional Director. Grace Carrington is our Southern Regional Director. She's from Florida. And State Representative Travis Nelson from Oregon, from our Western region. And I tell you, these guys, I work them tremendously. We have regional summits, and they work just as hard as you can. So thank you guys for all you do. And I want to make sure, my Black Caucus members, I see a lot of them here. Stand up, some of you are the delegates that are in the room are from abroad, delegates from abroad. Thank you so much. Okay. And
I love you too.
so I will weigh my marks again because we got the senator in the house. You know what? And I do have a story for the senator. He came to my house.
I did.
And he had the best time in the world. So when we hosted the debate in Detroit, Michigan, I had the honor of hosting all the candidates to come by the house, and it was just the presidential candidates, and it was just so awesome. And I had the pleasure of having Senator Booker in the house, and he was amazing. Senator Booker, come on up.
Right,
we just love you.
All right. All right. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be in this room. From coast to coast, from north to south, African-American voters, African-American leaders, we are in so many ways the conscience of the country.
Amen.
And all the things that we have gotten done under Biden-Harris, lowest black unemployment rate in the history of America, the most African Americans ever covered by health insurance, the most African Americans ever connected to the internet because of our infrastructure investments, the most business starts, small business starts for black people in any 2-year period under this administration. All of the accomplishments, getting every lead pipe out of the ground, the money we've been able to invest for clean water, the changes for clean air, the expansions of making sure that we deal with the maternal mortality crisis. I can go on and on and on. But as much as we are talking about the top of the ticket, we know that there would be none of these changes, advances, accomplishments if it was not for black voters. And so I just simply want to say, to he who much is given, much is required.
That's right.
I know that we are tired, but we got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. I know that we are weary, but we know, as it says in the Black National Anthem, stony the road we trod, bit of the chastening rod, but we will not stop marching. We will not stop fighting. We will not stop working. And so I just want to leave you with a simple message. I'm so excited to see Kamala Harris rise in the way she has over this last month.
Amen.
I have known that extraordinary sister for well over 15 years. We came up together in American politics. She is a real kind of friend. You want friends that will tell you the truth, right? I remember when I met with her when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. We both said we had to talk to each other. It was urgent. And we met in my office, and we both had something to say. And we go, who goes first? She goes, Corey, you can go first. I go, Kamala, please, it's lonely. I'm the only black person in the Democratic caucus in the Senate. Yeah, I need you. It's lonely here. I know you want to run for governor, but please, I begged her. I'm from the Motown school. I'm not too proud to beg now. Come on, sister. Please, baby, baby. Please, baby, baby, please. Run for the United States Senate. And she said, okay, I'll consider it. I go, but Kamala, what do you have to tell me? And she just looks at me, and she didn't want to talk to me about politics. All she said is, she goes, Corey, I'm just telling you, this is your sister, newly met the man of my dreams. I'm just telling you right now, man, you got a great public life, but brother, you need to get married, man. So I am telling you, she is that kind of sister. She is that kind of sister. So I don't want to exalt her. I want to talk about you for a moment. And this is how I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to end and be gone. But I just saw Brother Horsford. I just thought he caught my eye. Is he standing here? There he is. Brother Horsford right here. Give it up for the head of the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm starting to see too many people to call out, but some greats here. All right, so this is all I want to tell you. We are in a storm. The backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion. The backlash against voting rights. The backlash against civil rights. We are in a storm right now in America. And so I want to end by just telling you the story of a storm, a literal one that came in and hit the state of New Jersey. And it was the Hurricane Sandy. I was mayor of the city of Newark, and I'm driving around in a command vehicle being driven by 2 police officers as the storm is coming in and just trying to secure our neighborhood, make sure everything is locked down. And then my phone rings, and I pull out my cell phone, and I answer it, and it begins with the stupidest question I had ever heard. Forgive me for being disrespectful, but I think this might be the stupidest question in America. I answer the phone, and the person says, hello, this is the White House operator. Will you hold for the President of the United States? And I'm like, who says no to that question? And so I go, yes. And let me tell you, folks, I miss Obama. I miss Obama. And I miss her husband, too. But I miss Michelle. I miss Michelle. And so this was Michelle's husband. And I'm talking, and he calls me from the Oval Office, just checking in on me, seeing how the city of Newark was doing. It was amazing. It was a beautiful call of the President of the United States being concerned about the people. A majority black city, in the biggest city in New Jersey, calling me to see how we're doing. I hang up the phone, and then I got to get another call. My phone rings again. I pull out my cell phone, and this time it's the governor of my state. He's a Republican. This is not time for partisan politics. There's a storm in our midst, and he was checking in on me, too. We have a good conversation. I hang up the phone. And then we're coming up a hill, and through the storm and the lightning and the driving rain, I see that at the peak of the hill, all the telephone poles had come crashing down, dragging trees with them. It was a mess of wire and wood, but as we got closer, I see a big floodlight being waved at me. We got closer, I see it's a man in a yellow slicker. My officers pull the car right by him. He's right by my window. I roll down the window, and I see that it's an elderly man. And I look at him out in the middle of this storm, and I yell at him, forgive me. I raise my voice to this elderly man and said, what are you doing out here? And then he looks at me like I just asked him the stupidest question in America. He goes, Mayor, it is so dangerous out here. He pointed to the wire and the wood. It's so dangerous. I'm standing out here so no one comes along and gets hurt. Let me tell you, Black Caucus. I talked to the President of the United States, the governor of my state. I'm the mayor of the largest city, but the greatness I best saw exhibited that night was the man standing on top of a hill in the dark of night and driving rain to make sure other people don't get hurt. That's the Democratic Party. It's not the president, it's not the governor, it's not the senator, it's those of us who are ready to take that hill. Who will stand on the hill with me? Who will stand for women's rights, for civil rights, for union rights? Who will stand if we stand together and work together? If we fight, we. If we fight, we. All right, now let's go out there and get it done.
Thank you, Senator. Again, I just want to say welcome to our DNC Black Caucus Convention meeting. The last time we met in person was in Philadelphia, but we had an awesome virtual convention in 2019. So, and you know what? We had almost as many folk in this room virtually on our virtual Black Caucus meeting. Just as the Congressional Black Caucus is the conscience of the Congress, we are the DNC Black Caucus is the conscience of the Democratic National Committee. For generations, Black Americans have raised our voices. As you see, our theme of the Black Caucus is our values, our voice, our vote. Because we understand the issues that confront us, the disparities in the educational system, the disparities in the healthcare system, and the disparities certainly in the criminal justice system. So from the serial oral accounts of Frederick Douglass to the dream-filled speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King, from the poetic truth telling of Maya Angelou and James Baldwin, the urgent demands for voting rights, Fannie Lou Hamer's to the rally calls for change heard across the nation. Our voice continues to wake the nations. The right to vote has hard-won by those who came before us. The face violence, intimidation, unjust laws to voting rights. We must honor their sacrifices as I exercise with unwavering determinations. Our vote is our power. How we hold our leaders accountable and shape the policies that affect our daily lives. When we vote, we just don't change elections, we change the course of history. As Democrats, and particularly as Black Democrats, it is important that we remain resolved and stands for opportunity, equality, and justice. We are determined to live in this country where everyone has access to quality education, affordable health care, and economic opportunity. We are determined that the fight for the criminal justice reform, environmental justice, and civil rights is won. There aren't just political positions. There are the values that unite us as a caucus, a party, as soon as a country. Values that guide us, root us in our experiences and as our aspirations for future generations. The challenge we face is significant. System racism still persists. Economically, inequalities have widened. Democracy as we know it is facing extensions. But we are not daunted. We will not be dismayed because we are organized and we are energized, and after last night, we're gonna be mobilized. We know that when we unite our voices, when we exercise our votes, when we stand firm in our values, We are unstoppable, and we know we fight to win. And I tell you, when we get out here, because we know what our job is. We know what we're up against. We know that our candidate going to have a hard time. She's faced in all kinds of obstacles. But you know what? We got her back. We got her back. And so today, I'm just so excited because we have in this house, we have our panel that's going to come, our seat at the table, because you know we have Chop It Up, we have seat at the table. So you know what we do as we travel across this country, we organize Black brothers, we have a huge Chop It Up, and we have a seat at the table. So this year, we're going to be doing it again. We want you all to be ready because we're here to get it going. So at this time, we're going to ask that we step down, and as we take and ask the seat at the table panel if they would come at this time. Come on, you got to go sit down here. Oh, we do have our chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Oh my God, come on up here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Congressman Stephen Horsford. I'm proud to represent Las Vegas, Nevada's 4th Congressional District, and to be the first African American to be elected to Congress from Nevada. But I started right here in the DNC Black Caucus with Virgie Rollins and all of you, and to be here with my colleagues now from the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm honored to serve as chair for this 118th Congress at a historic time when we have 60 members in the Congressional Black Caucus, the largest in our history. We were founded 52 years ago. 13 founders, 1 Black woman, Shirley Chisholm.
That's right.
Today, of the 60 members, 31 are Black women.
All right.
And I know I see Chairwoman Maxine Waters in the house. She has been the leader, the fighter, chairing the Financial Services Committee, taking on the big banks, holding corporations accountable, making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion remains a priority, because when they attack DE&I, they're attacking you and I. But I am so honored to serve alongside great leaders like Chairwoman Maxine Waters and other members of your panel, including Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who speaks for me, who has taken on so many important issues. She was the lone vote against the war in Iraq. She is the reason that we have been able to invest so much on the continent of Africa to eradicate AIDS and HIV. It's because of her long-standing advocacy and legacy that we've been able to secure so many important appropriations and investments for our community. Thank you, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. And my colleague, one of the frontline members, so there are 4 CBC frontline members that will determine whether or not we win back this House and make Hakeem Jeffries the next speaker. One of those 4 is my colleague, Representative Johanna Hayes from the great state of Connecticut. And when we do our job between now and Election Day, not only will we elect the 47th President of the United States, Kamala Harris, who is a lifetime member of the CBC, by the way. But we will also win back the House, taking back the majority so that Hakeem Jeffries and all of our chairs are back in control, and also adding to the United States Senate, along with Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock. We're going to add to those numbers with Angela Also Brooks, with Lisa Blunt Rochester, with Colin Allred, because we understand that when we uplift Black America, we uplift everybody. Because our next president needs partners in Congress who can get the job done along with her and her running mate, Tim Walz. So thank you, Virgie, for your leadership. Thank you to your council, including Allison Stevens, for being here from Nevada. Thank all of you. Let's go do this work. Let's go win and make sure we deliver this victory. Thank you all very much.
Boy, am I excited to introduce the next person, because I wouldn't be in this position as a Black Caucus chair, because C. Dolores Tucker is one of my mentors, and I just want to say I'm standing here on the shoulders of the late Chairman Ron Brown, C. Dolores Tucker, Alexis Herman, and the great woman, Maxine Waters, and Congressman John Conyers, who was my mentor. And a Congresswoman called me and she said, "You need to be the Black Caucus chair." And all I said, "Okay." And she has been such a mentor for me, guiding, because I said she's from the old school and I was reared by the old school politicians. That's why I'm a prodigy of the late great Coleman Alexander Young, the first Black mayor.
Coleman Alexander.
And some of the toughest Black union guys that ever in Detroit UAW, because some of my idols is the late Robert Buddy Battle and Liz Jackson, who reared me and mentored me. So that when they say, "Virgie, you tough," I have to be tough. And you know, in this business, you have to be tough. So it is such a pleasure, because Congresswoman Maxine Waters is known all over the world, because you can't go nowhere that nobody don't know Auntie Maxine. So I want to introduce you to Auntie Maxine.
Hey, everybody. Now, before I say anything, I want you to applaud Virgie. She has carried on. She has persisted. She has not gotten the resources that she needs, but she did not give up. She's our chair, and I'm making her chair for life. All right. Give her a big round of applause. Oh, my goodness, I'm looking around. Are there any Black people in the room? Well, say it loud. I'm Black and I'm proud. Say it loud.
Andre.
Say it loud. All right, now let's get down to business.
Andre.
It is so good to be here, and no matter how far we have to go, how long we have to walk, how many buses we have to take, we're here at the Black Caucus. Maybe some people thought we wouldn't get here, but we're here. Give yourselves a big round of applause. I want to thank our panel for coming this morning to share with you important information. I am so pleased that as volunteers, you never turn us down. You're always here. Give them a big round of applause.
We love you.
And so, we're at a special time in the history of this country. We're at a special time, and we're about to enter into a time that's going to take us into the future in ways that we always thought we could do, that we worked hard for, that we sacrificed for, and even some people died for. I want to tell you that I stand here so proud, and I want you to know that things don't just happen. They happen for a reason. And we did not know whether or not Biden was going to step down. We knew that there was some calling for him to step down. I was not. He said, "You had my back and I got yours," and he did a great job. Give him a big round of applause. And there were some people who thought he was going to step aside and thought that Kamala would have to step aside too. But I want to tell you, no matter what was on Biden's mind, whatever people were thinking, he said, "Okay, I'm stepping down, and I endorse Kamala Harris to run for the presidency of the United States of America." Give Biden a big round of applause. Thank you, Biden. Thank you, Biden. Thank you. Thank you. You had the courage. You had the confidence. And you know what he told us, and what he says all the time? When I chose her to be the vice president, I knew that she was capable of being the president of the United States. And he was so right. And so here we are. Kamala Harris has stepped into an interesting time. It is a condensed time. It is not going through months and months all across this country and dealing with the issues and trying to educate people. Because of the condensed time, when it was announced, something happened in this country and people got very happy. And the cloud that was over us kind of evaporated. And all of a sudden, first of all, black women came forward. Black women came forward. And for all of those who think black women are poor, we don't have any money, we showed up with some money. And we challenged everybody else to show up with some money. And now this campaign is receiving the kind of money where she won't have to step down, she won't have to get aside, she won't have to beg on her knees. The money is coming in, and we're going to have the resources we need to win the presidency of the United States of America. And so, we're going to hear all kinds of things. You know that man with the orange hair who lies all the time, who is so divisive, one of the most deplorable human beings we'll ever meet in our lives. We know that he's going to come up with every kind of lie imaginable. Can you imagine the big lie of there were not 15,000 people in Detroit? It was all artificial intelligence. They just made it up. He is a brazen liar. He'll tell one every day, every minute, and every hour. But what he cannot do, he cannot make the people of this country believe that we don't have the most competent, the most ready, the most capable individual who's going to be the president of the United States of America, coming into this convention with more delegates than she actually needs. What can you say about a woman who served as city attorney in San Francisco, went on to be attorney general, went on to run for the Senate of the United States, was chosen to be the vice president? If that's not ready, I don't know what is.
Right.
If that's not competent, I don't know what is. If that's not someone who has dedicated their career to the possibility that someday a black woman could be president of the United States of America, then I don't know what and where you came from, because we got it. We got what we need. It cannot be denied. I am so proud. All of us can wake up every morning with new hopes and new dreams. And for black women who have been disparaged, who have been kept aside, who have been undermined, who couldn't get the jobs in the C-suite, we are ready. What did Tiffany Haddish say? Tiffany Haddish said, when she heard, she said she'd be ready. And now we say, we be ready. Thank you all so very much for giving me a moment here. I thank you. I love you. I am going to work hard to make sure that we get the public policy to the president's desk that gets signed into law. And guess what? Guess what? I ain't scared of nobody.
Here, here's your glasses. Are we excited? Isn't she awesome? Woo! I just want to, we have one of the fearless, and I always say since I was a Black Panther, I think she was too at one point.
She was.
The Congresswoman who, if you want to get into making sure things are done right, that you want to make sure we got equality at the DNC, who shared with me to get everything you wanted. She was the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus at the time. Boy, did we change the mode of the DNC. Oh, yeah. I tell you, when you go back in history and you see all the stuff that has been accomplished in the last 18 years at the DNC, because you know contracts was for not for, you didn't get to be a consultant or a contract if you look like us. Can you guys kind of sit, take a seat? Please, please. Please go take your seats because you're crowding out and we got to get our meeting going. I just want to give my partner and my DNC Black Caucus member, one who we done fought to change how DNC do business. We got our first diversity officer in the last 10 years. We have made the Black Caucus, the DNC accountable to Black folks. When I say we the conscience of the Black, we the conscience of the Democratic Party, the Black Caucus is the conscience of the Democratic Party. As the Congresswoman said, I ain't scared either. I ain't scared. So I want to introduce our Congresswoman from California and a member of the DNC Black Caucus, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. We done been together, haven't we?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, when we fight, what do? We win. Virgie, let me just thank you, because as Congresswoman Waters said, I think you've been my chair since I've been a Democrat. So thank you for your leadership. Look at this, and Congresswoman Waters, I just want to say to her how much I appreciate not only her leadership, but her friendship. I met her in 1972. Now I want to just share with you a couple of things. I have been to every convention since 1972 with the exception of one. I was there with Shirley Chisholm in 1972. I was there at the Black Caucus meeting, and there were what? Maybe a handful of us sitting to the left. Here we are today, and that's as a result of the leadership of Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm and Fannie Lou Hamer and Reverend Jesse Jackson, who made sure that this Democratic Party became more democratic. And so thank you all, because this to me is very exciting. It's almost like the bookends for myself, because now we have Vice President Kamala Harris, who just happened to have been born in my congressional district in Oakland, California. Y'all know where that is. Power to the people. Raised in Berkeley, and has been a phenomenal leader on so many fronts. She was the district attorney, as you know, in San Francisco. She was our attorney general in California. She was our United States senator. She is prepared, she's experienced, and she's ready. She truly has come for such a time as this, and you all know that. You know that. And let me just say a couple of things about the Biden-Harris administration. Promises made, promises kept. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, our Supreme Court justice. Our values, our votes, and our voices made that happen. And so we need to thank President Biden for his promises, Vice President Kamala Harris for being right by his side. We need to thank this Biden-Harris administration for getting us out of the devastating impacts of COVID. You all remember our community was dying disproportionately from the COVID pandemic. And what did they do? They saved lives and they saved livelihoods. Don't forget that. Also, when it comes for fighting for our freedoms, Vice President Kamala Harris has fought for reproductive freedom. She's fought for our voting rights. She's fought to make sure that the clock is not turned back to the days of many of us remember, the days of Jim Crow and past that. And so we need to really remember not only the past, but look at the future and look at what Vice President Kamala Harris's vision is for making sure that not only do we survive, but that we thrive. And that is important because that's her vision of the future. And you're going to make it happen. And I've said earlier that I've been to every convention except one since '72. But you know what? At this convention, I'm confident that we're going to go out and work, right? We're going to go out and work to make sure that the Harris-Walz ticket wins in November. It's going to be up to us. It's going to be up to you. Because this is about the power of the people. And yes, Virgie meant and said that I was with the Black Panther Party. Now I was a community worker with the Black Panther Party, okay? I introduced Shirley Chisholm to Huey Newton, okay? I knew the importance of the power of the people then, and the Black Panther Party registered people to vote. Our people, just like Reverend Jackson registered over 8 million people when he ran for the presidency. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna go out there and fight, right? Because we're gonna win, and we're gonna make sure that every vote is cast and every vote is counted. So thank you again so much. Virgie, let me thank you for your leadership. And it's overwhelming and so powerful for me to see so many members of the DNC's Black Caucus and all of you here today, because I remember '72. And I see that when we fight, we do win. Thank you all again. May God bless.
Let us give the Congresswoman another round of applause. Okay, we're ready. All right, okay.
Oh, boy, you fired up?
Ready to go.
You ready to go? Oh, my God. Well, it is my honest honor and my pleasure to introduce Joy, the next Vice President of the United States, Governor Tim Walz.
This is good. Look at this. I think they're ready. Put us in there. I think they're ready. I think they're ready. It's time. It's time. You got that? Just let me go. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Wow. Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you for the work you've done. I think there's a lot of my colleagues somewhere in this house. I see there, Bobby Joe Champion. He's the president of the Minnesota Senate right there. So, welcome to all of you. I think you've seen something. There's a little something going on out there in America, maybe. Vice President Harris has a way, whether we were yesterday in Western Pennsylvania with crowds of folks showing up, And you know what? You want to know something about this leader we've got on our team? You want to know something about it? We're getting off that bus. There's a massive group of supporters there, and there's a small group of the other folks on the other side. You can always tell them by their hats, you know. And she, without missing a beat, said, and I work just as hard to improve their lives as anybody else standing out here. I got the privilege, and I'm going to mention a couple folks who are here because I had the privilege of serving with these folks. I just had a chance to talk with the force of nature that's Maxine Waters backstage. So I know my friend, and I got a chance to have, I think I got a chance to have dinner last week in Minnesota with Barbara Lee's godchild out there. So Representative Lee, I know that Al Green's around here somewhere, has been here, a dear friend of mine. And I did not get to serve with Rep. Hayes, but I think what we know, where is she?
Right there.
Yeah, did not get that chance. This leader, look, I have the privilege of being governor of Minnesota, and now I couldn't be more surprised, but I'm the nominee, or you will make me the nominee for vice president. She did something I couldn't do. She's teacher of the year. She is a teacher of the year. So that speaks volumes. Look, that energy from Pittsburgh, yeah, you can all sit down. The teacher in me knows that you stood up because you were about to fall asleep when we came in here. So we were in Omaha, Nebraska, with thousands of people showing up to be out there. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. We're going to win Senate races out there. We're going to win House races. But folks are showing up. They walked for miles to be with their neighbors in western Wisconsin. They showed up, 15,000 of them in a hangar in Detroit. Now, Donald Trump said they were AI. You know what's not going to be AI? Their ballots when they vote for Kamala Harris. Not going to be AI. And then thousands showed up in 109-degree heat in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the state coordinator for the campaign, Shelby, signed up over 5,000 of them to door knock and phone bank. Then she got dehydrated, had to go to urgent care and get an IV. That's somebody leaving it all on the field. That's somebody that understands. We've got 78 days to make a generational difference, not in just this country, but in the world.
Amen.
Look, we understand something that we grew up hearing about, towards a more perfect union. Strong and decent nations acknowledge their past, the good, the bad, and the ugly that goes with it. We acknowledge it because it lets us chart a course for the future. Those guys taking us back, as the vice president said, we aren't going back. We're not going back.
Not going back.
But we're going forward. We're going forward in a country that everybody matters. Everybody's got a chance. Everybody can see generational wealth. Everybody can get access to capital to start their small business. And a recognition that the systemic and historic barriers that were put in front of black communities have stopped that movement towards a more perfect union, have held it back. And as I say to Bobby Joe Champion again, the one thing you can always count on, a lot of times, this was the history, you can count on the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, and you can count on white politicians coming to black communities to ask for their votes. What's different this time is we have a black woman going to lead us, and she's asking for the votes. She's asking for the votes.
Kick his ass.
So I tell you, that's a trick I've learned in my life. Surround yourself with smart women and listen to them, and you'll do just fine. You'll do just fine. Things will turn out well for you. So we owe it to our children. We owe it to those next generations. We have the capacity, and this is hard work. It's difficult work at times, but it's meaningful work. It's work in the community. It is what this incredible leader, Kamala Harris, has brought to this race. She's brought all those things: experience, vision, intelligence, strength. But she's also brought joy to this. She's brought laughter to this. They can say what they want. You know the only time they laugh is laughing at somebody less fortunate than them. That's the only time they laugh. They see our most vulnerable citizens as scapegoats and punchlines for their jokes. She sees them as neighbors and people who deserve to have respect. So for each and every one of you, I know, and I've been saying this is a lot of preaching to the choir, but man, the choir needs to sing. The choir needs to sing. This is our moment. This is our moment. 78 days. 78 days. Hell, we can do anything for 78 days. And as I've been telling people, we'll sleep when we're dead. Not now. Not now. Not now. So to each of you, let's get the work done. Let's make this official. Let's take some time tonight to honor our president, somebody who's delivered to us on every step of the ways in Joe Biden. Let's deliver for that man. But that's a man who all the good decisions he made, one of the first ones he made was he put Kamala Harris at his side to make sure he was listening. And then he listened to her. And then he passed the torch to her. Because I'll tell you what, I'm leaving it all on the field. And on that 79th day when we wake up, you look at your children and say, that right there is President of the United States. Madam President of the United States. So thank you all. Let's get it done. Thank you.
So much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our chair lady, Miss Virgie Rollins, another hand. She's the hardest working person in show business. She's the one.
Okay, so we got to get back to our. We got to get back to our agenda here. If you guys can sit, we got some good stuff coming. I see our speakers from last night are in the house. Dr. Freddie Haynes. Yeah. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. I thought I saw.
It's not gonna happen.
We're gonna do our panel. Is our panel ready? Jacques Siobhan, you guys got to come down. Go take a seat down here. Because our panel is coming. Governor, thank you. You got a bottle?
Just right.
All right, I'm going to take mine. Okay.
Because you're on the panel, right? You all are.
At this point, can we all take our seats? We're going to have our seat at the table panel come. Who is our leader? Dr. Siobhan, come on. Right here. Can you all take your seats while our seat at the table panel come?
Somebody's missing.
Oh my God! There he is.
Waisi.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
You are still in the right place at the right time. It's so good to be here with all of our caucus delegates. I am Siobhan Arline Bradley, and I serve as good to see y'all. And I serve as the president and CEO of NCNW, the National Council of Negro Women. Here in the spirit of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, we are so excited to be here today. Listen, we have so much going on. There's so much love happening in the room. But we do have a panel that we need to get to of some bad sisters. Come on now, the sisters are looking good this morning. We are excited about this panel. We are going to have a conversation around black women and their power. Somebody say black women and their power. Yeah, we call it a seat at the table, and we've been talking about our Shiro, Shirley Chisholm, who has paved the way for our sister leader, Kamala Harris. Just call her Madam President. Amen, amen. So we're going to jump right into this conversation. I know we've got a lot of commotion going on, but I do want to honor the leaders that are here today. I want to shout out the state of Maryland. I know my Maryland delegation is in the building. We're about to bring on this new U.S. Senator. I see y'all in the building. We are so excited to have a great panel. I'm going to start to my far left. She is none other than Stephanie Brown James. Let's hear it for Stephanie Brown James. Stephanie is the proud co-founder of the Collective PAC. Come on, somebody. She's co-founder and senior advisor, and she's the former African-American vote director for the Obama 2012 election campaign. She's straight out of the state of Ohio. We also have Congresswoman Jahana Hayes from the Connecticut 5th Congressional District, America's teacher and sweetheart, and has been an amazing leader in the U.S. House of Representatives. To her left, I see my sister of my colored sorority, amen somebody. Wakenya Clanton, founder of Black Women for Kamala. She is here, straight out of the state of Mississippi in the house. I see to her left one of my favorite doctors in the whole wide world. This is Representative Donna Christensen from the U.S. Virgin Islands. She serves as Eastern Regional Director. And last but not least, I see there she is, out of the great state of Florida, Sister Grace Carrington, Southern Regional Director. So listen, you've already heard the introduction. We're going to jump right into this panel because we do want to talk a little bit about the power of black women. Congresswoman Hayes, I'm going to start with you. And this question is for the entire panel. Now, I'm Baptist. Now, come on, church. Amen. The pulpit is live. And these sisters have something to say, all right? So let's start with you, Congresswoman. I want us to talk really from you, from your perspective. How are black women leading and leaning in during this historical moment in time?
Wow. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. It is great to be here. I am Congresswoman Jahana Hayes from Connecticut's 5th Congressional District. And to that question, how are black women leading in this historic moment? I think the answer is however we want to.
Yes, that's right.
However we want to. Because one of the things that I've seen as a member of Congress, and one of the biggest challenges, is other people deciding for us how we show up, how we get to show up. I ran for Congress in 2018 right out of the classroom. I was a classroom teacher literally the day before I got sworn into Congress. And everybody told me what I couldn't do, what I needed to do, how it was going to work. And I decided I have been on the receiving end of every one of the policies that I am about to weigh on. I think that makes me qualified and ready to weigh into these conversations. I mean, everything from questioning what I wore, how I did my hair, and one day I came to the realization, if I put it on, it's congressional. I don't have to have someone else give me permission of how I'm going to show up. And I think that is what is so important right now, for everyone to show up in the way that is authentic for them, to engage their own networks and their own audiences, and not let other people create the framework for how we will get this done. Because unless and until we pull everybody into these conversations, unless and until we open doors and make people feel welcome and included in the work that we're doing. I mean, I was a teacher. I was the National Teacher of the Year. That's a real thing. That's
she
my
really
real
was.
job.
A real job.
Listen,
that was her real black
and
job.
That never gets old. But as the National Teacher of the Year, I had a very unique perspective on the policy that was being decided at the national level that impacted my kids and my community.
Right.
And I think we have to fall back from trying to change the way we show up to fit the mold and normalize Black excellence in places of power.
Yeah, normalizing Black excellence. I'm gonna go over to Stephanie. Same question for you. How are we, from your perspective, how are Black women leading and leaning in during this historic time?
Well, we've never stopped. We've never stopped. And I would just say that, in this moment, we have to do what we do better than we've ever done it.
Absolutely.
Because we are the best to do it. We are the prototypes when it comes to leadership in this country. We are the standard bearers when it comes to what it means to organize in our communities. We are the ones who decide what policies look like and how they're implemented because we are the ones that go to city council and to school board. The thing now, though, is we have to take it up another level. And yes, Black women always have another level we can go to.
We always do.
Okay, be clear. And so we need to make sure that the energies that's being galvanized on all these Zooms, raise your hand if you've been on one of the Zooms. Sometimes they go too long.
Who's in the number? The 44,000, come on.
But those Zooms are important, and we have to shout out Win with Black Women for organizing so much of this effort.
Shout out to Joe.
It's now time to get off the Zooms, get off the couch, and get into the streets.
Right.
And so I'm just going to challenge you real quickly to say that there are over 5 million Black people who are not registered to vote currently. There are over 3.5 million Black people who are registered but did not vote in 20 or 21. But guess what? The margin of victory by the Biden-Harris campaign in 2020 was 1.8 million in the battleground states. What does that mean? That means Black people make the difference.
Yeah.
So our job has to be getting Black people out to vote, period, because when that happens, we will win. When we organize, we will win. And that effort has been led by Black women, and I am so grateful to know that Black men also have our back in that organizing effort.
Say it for the people in the back. Black men and Black women are not disconnected, okay? Let's get over this myth. Brothers and sisters are aligned. Brothers are working with the sisters. Stop using that talking point. It's not a real talking point. Look at this room. We are connected.
Can I shout out my husband, Quentin James, one of the co-founders of Win with Black Men?
Yes,
Stand up, honey.
there's Q. Because the brothers were on the phone too. I don't want to miss that moment, right?
Yeah.
We keep doing that, perpetuating that, and that's what they want us to do. They want us to say that we're disconnected and we're not organized and we're not together. Not on our watch. We are just fine. Leave us alone.
That's right.
I'm going to come to Joaquin. Same question for you. How are we leaning and leading right now?
Well, thank you so much, Siobhan, and good morning to everybody. It's always great to be in a sea of Black folks. I love to see it. Our sisters have said it. You know what I mean? We've never stopped doing this work, right? We continue to do it when it's not popular, when it's not kind, right? When it's thankless. And I think we have to continue doing that because the fact of the matter is if we don't do it, no one else will. If there were not 44,000 Black women who decided to, it was actually 44,000 plus Black women.
It was more.
Because we were streaming and keeping it and calling, okay? But we did it first and we did it best, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I say that. I say it because our organizing has never stopped, right? It didn't start with the 44,000.
Correct.
That has been happening for 4 years. So let me tell you, when we, and I have to say this because as a good woman in red, I have to say this thing. When we set the standard, we set it high. So we didn't set it so that everybody could meet us. We set it so they could exceed us, right?
That's good.
Because what we're working on is actually, we stood in the gap so they could step up, right? I don't expect Black women to raise as much money as the other women. I don't, because
Equal pay for Black women.
come on, hello somebody. Equal pay for Black women.
Come on.
And even without that equal pay, we still hit 1 million plus. So don't play with us.
And the men did 1.5.
And now see,
Well, almost 2 million.
we went to 2. The fact of the matter is we always elevate, right? And we're going to continue to do that work. And I think it's really incumbent on everyone else to understand what the masterpiece is and just pick your part of the blueprint and play that role. And that's how we're going to do it.
Play your role. Y'all hear that? Play your role. I'm going to go to Sister Grace. Sister Grace, same question for you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna just echo the sentiments that's already been said and add this. We have continued to turn out through COVID.
Come on, Grace.
I'm in Florida, and you know the challenges we face, right?
Y'all
The
go ahead and pray
voter
for Florida right now.
suppression.
Y'all pray right now. Y'all
Yes.
just
Pray
extend
for
your
me,
hand right
please,
now to them.
please pray for
Amen.
me. Okay.
It's a whole thing.
I need it desperately. But besides what the Satan is doing,
Yeah.
he cannot stop us.
That's right.
Come on, just say
We understand the assignment. We have been moving through our communities throughout, getting people signed up for vote by mail, because what did he do? When we surpassed them last time, he changed the rules.
That's what they do.
And so now everybody's terrified that they can't pick up Big Mama's vote by mail ballot. And they can only take theirs and family members within the home. So you know what we did? We gathered people in centers around the community and had them fill out their ballots and did what? Get them and drop them in the drop box.
Come on.
So guess what? The devil is a liar.
That's right. That's
Okay?
right.
We are going to continue to turn out like we have been, year after year after year, because this time we got skin in the game with Vice President Harris.
All right.
Let me before you jump in. Let me go to Representative Christensen, and I'm going to come back and ask Joaquin to tag that. Because there's a few things that we want to lift up. I want you to hear the kind of themes that are going on. Black women never stopped.
That's right.
It's a constant theme. Another theme here is that we have actually elevated so that others can emulate and do their work too.
That's right.
Part of the history of black women in this country is that we've always been caretakers of. And now we're taking care of democracy.
There you go.
And don't mind carrying it on our backs because we won last time, we're going to win again this time. So come on, Representative.
Good morning. Well, I come from the Virgin Islands.
Yes, ma'am.
Women have led every revolution that we have had on our small islands. Now, we happen to be territories, so we can't vote for president.
Yep.
Past the primary process. But we are finding ways to continue the struggle that our ancestors started. And whether it's phone banking, whether it's leaving home and going to different communities where we're needed, raising funds. So we have to really be creative about how we get this victory in November.
Yeah.
But the blood of the 5 ladies that started to burn down the islands, the ones that had the coal workers strike in St. Thomas, that blood runs in our veins, and we have never, ever stopped as women leading our community.
Love that.
We have a delegate. I was the first woman delegate.
Yes, you
We have
were.
a delegate who's a woman today.
Come on, Stacey Plaskett.
Strong.
Come on now.
Stacey
Shout out to Stacey.
Plaskett.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we're working on our next governor as a woman as well. So we're carrying our load.
I love that. Come on, why can't you tag that back?
I just don't want us to miss what Grace said. And also, Congresswoman, thank you for being the first but not the last. Because sometimes we get caught up in that too.
Exactly.
But let me just tag on to what Grace said around voter suppression. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I live in a deep red South, right? Blood red South. And what they're doing in Florida, they're also doing in places like Mississippi, like Alabama, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina. If we're not paying attention to what's happening in the state legislatures, we are losing. Because a part of the Project 2025 is the playbook on voter suppression. Right. The courts, that's not a mistake. The overtaking of the state legislature is not a mistake. In Mississippi last year, we saw more changes to our voting rights laws than we have in the last 5 years. And that's because we almost flipped the state. That's a big deal. We lost that race by 26,000 votes.
That's it.
In that same year, we had registered 33,000 people to vote. The Secretary of State purged 32,000 people from the active voting rolls in that same year. So what does that tell you? Somebody better wake up.
That's right.
And we gotta be in tune to what's happening.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention. We got to win this game in the margins.
That's right. That's right.
This presidential nominee has more pathways to victory than any other president preceding her.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
So if we're gonna do the job of getting her across the finish line, we gotta play the game of voter education, voter mobilization, voter information, right? Registration and turnout.
Well, you going to the next question,
Okay,
so
I'm
that's what
sorry.
we're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
So come on, Congresswoman.
But just on this voter suppression, I don't want us to get lulled into this false sense of security that it's only in the South and
Thank
the
you.
southern states.
I'm
I'm from the state of Connecticut, which people
Come on.
traditionally talk, it's the Constitution state. There's a reason why it took 247 years for them to elect a black woman. And when people say it's Connecticut, my response is always, it's Connecticut.
That's right.
This is the first election that we've had early voting. We never had early voting. We had to pass a referendum, right? She's looking at me like, in Connecticut, we never had, no excuse, early in-person voting. We passed a referendum during COVID. That was the first time it was able to pass. So this presidential primary was the first time we had 14 days of early in-person absentee voting. We still don't have no excuse absentee voting. So I think people assume that it is only in the Deep South.
Right.
But our state legislatures are crafted in such a way that this is how it is and we cannot change it. The thing is, the people who make the rules can also change the rules. And when we elect people into those offices who value opening access to the ballot and making sure that everybody, that big mama, that people who are unhoused, that people who may be homebound can still vote, that's how we turn out the vote. And people say, well, we don't know who they're going to vote for. My job is not to decide who someone is going to vote for.
Come on.
My job is to remove all of the barriers so that they have the opportunity to vote. That's the same reason why we don't have D.C. as a state, the same reason why there's pushback on Puerto Rico, because there is this fear that if we are allowed to vote, we just might vote for the right person.
They are, and listen, shout out, because in actuality, they ought to be afraid.
Yeah.
Should be.
Because what we have really shown this country is this idea of the power of the collective.
Yeah.
Right.
And when people begin to understand their true power,
That's right.
then that's why they invest in identifying candidates that will create these laws. You got to understand, this is the long game. This ain't checkers, this is chess.
That's right.
And they are moving pieces to create what it is that they want to create. And I'm saying they, I'm using all them pronouns, them, they, over there.
Yes.
That don't want to be a part of this inclusive family that we call this party.
That's right.
So they told me we got about 9 minutes left, so let me take it very quickly. So for each of you, your closing charge is this question. What is your charge for black women in advance of this election? Very specific, because what I don't want us to do is get theoretical. It's time to now get out of the hype and get to the work. What's the strategy that you want these delegates and leaders here, as we go back to our homes? I'm going to end it because we have a list to share as well. I'm going to start with you, Councilwoman Hayes. What are you asking black women to do right now?
The charge that I've given people at home is, I started with be responsible for bringing 10 new people to the poll. Turn people out. Make sure that you know the rules in your county, in your district, in your legislature, and do not turn away. We've had people in the last election where we had to have a team of lawyers on the ground because people were told you are no longer registered, your address is not correct, your ID is not correct. My thing is, do not leave. Do not leave. Make sure that, we get in these rooms and a lot of times we're talking to each other, preaching to the choir. We have to bring new people in. And many of those people are right in our own family. Take responsibility for bringing someone else to the poll. Make it your business. Find out their location, make sure they have a ride. And if we do that collectively, it takes a village. We are our brother's keepers. We are the party that cares about our neighbors. And the only way that we do that is to make people understand that you are responsible for the outcome. And the last thing I'll say is we talk a lot about majorities and minorities. I've served in 2 Congresses. I can tell you I definitely prefer the majority. But there are only 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate. All day long, you're the majority and you outnumber us. And you decide how these elections will turn out, not us.
That's right. Joaquin?
Well, this is the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer. And I would not be a great Mississippian if I did not share this sentiment, right? It was 60 years ago in this same space, not in the same exact space, but in the same moment, that Fannie Lou Hamer took her seat at the table. And so my charge, yeah, you can give it up for Miss Fanning. Because if it wasn't for her, there would be no us.
That's right.
So let me be clear about why she sat at that table. She sat at that table because we were not allowed to sit at their table. So she sat down so that we could sit. But she didn't mean for us to stay sitting down. She wanted us to get up, right? So she took her seat. Now it's time for us to take ours. And it's time for us to share the blueprint, Black women. We have done this thing. We've won elections for everybody else. It's time for us to win it for ourselves.
Wow. Let the church say amen. Yeah, win it for ourselves. You better preach, girl.
I'm gonna just leave it there because if not, I'm gonna preach. So
No, ma'am. We only got 6 minutes. Don't do that. Come on, Congresswoman.
Well,
Good stuff.
it's up to us here.
Yeah.
We heard from our vice presidential candidate, and we'll hear from our presidential candidate later this week, but it's up to us. My charge would be to reach out to those marginalized and disenfranchised communities who feel that their vote means nothing, that they don't want to vote, and really try to engage them, because this election is about giving them a voice and an opportunity. And the other group is the young people. To me, this is their election. What we do today will determine their future, and they need to really understand how important it is for them to get in here and vote, because this is about them.
That's right. Let's hear it for Congresswoman Christensen. Sister Grace?
Own your community. Each neighbor is interdependent on each other.
That's good.
Own your community. Reach out. On the bus over, I heard a conversation with folks talking about someone moved and they said, you know, it's not the same. I don't know who my neighbor is. When they walk out the door and we get in our cars to go to work, they don't even say good morning. Own your community. Relationship organizing works.
Yeah.
Getting on the ground works, and it starts within your community. So that's my charge. If you're a woman here in the sound of my voice, own your community. Take ownership of it.
That's right. Amen. Come on, Steph.
The first thing I would say is own your Blackness, because it is a superpower. Ain't nothing we can't do. We've seen it done before, and it is on us to protect our communities, our families, our home, this country, what it means to be free. Remember that Kamala Harris was once also a local candidate. So as you are going out talking about Kamala Harris, talk about that Black woman that's on the ballot, that you know we need her to be on the school board to make sure our kids got the curriculum they need, to make sure that the judges who are being put on the benches actually believe in fair justice and believe in supporting all of our communities. We have to have the backs of local and state folks who are running for office. So I want to just shout you out. If you are a current elected official, just raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Because we know that to change the laws, we must change the lawmakers, and they have to reflect, respect, and represent our communities the best way possible. So thank you. Let's get out. Keep your Blackness always out there first, and support each other.
I want to do this before we end. Lottie Shackelford is in the building. I call her the living legend, Lottie. There she is. Lottie has been guiding us for years, standing as a leader in this party. Let me just close with this. One of the things that we are doing in the civil rights community, NCNW specifically, in our GOTV status. Now, we are a 501c3, but we are politically acute and astute. And our work is now focusing on high school seniors in this country. We are asking every community to go to your high schools with your local churches, your local mosques, with your local community center leaders, your YMCAs, YWCAs, members of our institutions. If we can get 4 million young people to vote, 4 million will take us over a hump. So if we can get every high school senior registered, every state is different. Some states 16-year-olds can register, 17-and-a-half-year-olds can register, but here's the deal. They can't just register, they have to also go and vote.
That's right.
And then when they vote, we have to then incorporate them in the 2025 plan too on how we stay alive.
That's right.
So our goal is to continue to keep this work going. So give it up for our panel. Give it up for the black women at this table. Sister Virgie, thank you so much. And oh, we missed the list. They got to add that to the list. And if you have not run for office and you're thinking about doing, stop thinking and just do it.
Yep.
We need more black women on ballots across the country. So God bless you and thank you so much.
Let's give our panel a hand. Aren't they awesome? I know my Federation sister Joanne is happy that we got her Congresswoman up here. You know, our next panel is telling our truth. Can't nobody do it for us. Amen. Can't nobody come in our community and tell us how to get our vote out. And guess what? And because we're going to do it. This is one time we're going to work our own community because we're going to elect the next president, Vice President Kamala Harris. So, is our panel ready? So, you know what? If you guys leave now, you're going to miss the best thing coming up because we got Cornell Belcher in the house. The baddest black poster in the country. And he going to tell us how to do it. He going to tell us where to go to do it, and he going to tell us how to do it. So I'm going to call our next panel. And it's going to be moderated by Barara Sellers, State Representative. Would you come? Barara Sellers. Here we go. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. If everybody can hear me, clap one time. If you can hear me, clap 2 times. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. I think we're ready to go. I learned that from Governor Walz like I was a middle school teacher. I have the privilege and honor of moderating this next panel, and so I would like to bring up first Dr. Frederick D. Haynes III. Next, I would like to bring up one of the baddest women in the United States Congress, and she's actually gracing the DNC stage as well, but none other than Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
I know you. And I'm going to write it down for you, but keep going. Kiera Pasante Hudson.
Okay, who is that? I now need to call up one of my brothers in policy, one of the smartest people we know, VP of Policy over at the NAACP, none other than Cedric Haynes. Now, wait a minute. Y'all ain't going to be giving no mediocre claps for the men and start raising the roof when...
How are you? You got to get my pastor in
What's
here.
her last part? What's her last name?
Because Hibby done went to church and talked bad about me.
Kiera Pasante Houghton. And she is also one of our policy gurus up here as well. And what I'm going to do is give her a round of applause, y'all. I'm going to start with you, Kiera. I know you just got up here.
Sure.
I want everybody to just answer this first question for me. I want you to spend a couple of minutes introducing yourself.
Yeah.
And then tell us the definition of misinformation or disinformation and why you believe we have to be focused on the truth during this election.
Absolutely. Well, good morning. Are we still in the morning? We're still in the morning. Good morning, everyone. So glad to be with you here today. I'm Kiera Pasante Houghton. I'm the Vice President for Campaigns and Communications at the National Women's Law Center Action Fund. in my role, and as a former, I have to shout out our chair, Virgie Rollins. I'm a former DNC spokesperson. I ran the Black media portfolio for a few cycles, and so I'm seeing a lot of friends and familiar faces in the room this morning. So misinformation and disinformation. So I want to talk about, I think, misinformation specifically because of the intentionality behind it, right? So misinformation is the definition we use at the Law Center Action Fund is when someone is intentionally trying to steer you astray. Someone who is specifically and intentionally interjecting or inserting a lie, as I call a thing, a spade, right? Into a conversation, whether that's about a public figure, whether it's about an issue, whether that's about an event that has happened, right? We've seen a lot of misinformation about actual verifiable events that have occurred in our world, in history. And so I think one of the specific things that you will see, one of the bits of misinformation that's going on right now, I can give you an example of, is this lie that Republicans are telling about the vice president's ethnicity and about her heritage, right? I don't think there's a single person on planet Earth who would encounter Kamala Devi Harris and be confused about exactly who she is and who she is. I don't know any room in the world, I know sisters, you understand this, that she could show up and tell anyone that she was not black. Like, that's just not a thing. And they know that, right? And they've always known that. She's been black since she was born, and she will be black her whole life, and she will be black when she goes on to be with the ancestors, hopefully in a very, 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 very long time from now. And so this thing that they're doing, right, as you've seen on TV, you've seen online, it's even started to infiltrate some of our group chats. I know y'all have seen this, right? Your WhatsApps, whatever. But is she black? Is she really black? Does she call herself black? Was she always black? Or as we've heard from our convicted felon former president, oh, well, she just became black. She turned black recently, right? Which is a lie. So that's, I think, a good example of misinformation that is kind of proliferating throughout this particular cycle. And I'll pass it to my other panelists to
Yeah, no, I'm going to go next to Congresswoman Crockett.
Yes.
And I think that you are someone who works in an environment much like mine, where there is a great deal of disinformation and misinformation that you must combat on the front line. So tell them a little bit about yourself, those who don't know, and then your definitions thereof.
Thank you, Bakari. Good morning. Y'all can do better than that. We about to elect our first black woman president.
That's right.
Good morning. There we go. Listen, now I got to be on my best behavior so I won't be cussing up here because this is my pastor right here. Yes, it is. But no, listen, I am so excited to be here specifically with the Black Democrats. And yeah, they got me on the right panel. I did not quite know my schedule. I still don't know my schedule. But living a life in the 118th Congress ain't nothing but lies. I ain't even going to call it misinformation and disinformation because they lie.
Right.
That's what they do. And they intentionally do it, which is why I'm calling it a lie. As y'all know, I serve on or for those of you who don't know, let me back up. Let me not be presumptuous. My name is Jasmine Crockett. I am the freshman congresswoman out of Dallas, Texas. And I currently serve on the Oversight Committee, the Agriculture Committee, and then I was added to the Weaponization Committee. Sigh. And so on the Agriculture Committee, it doesn't usually get too lit. Oversight, it gets popping for a lot of reasons, but most of the time is because we have what they consider to be the firebrands from the right that serve on that committee. And I just want to take this conversation just a little bit deeper because I just returned from Taiwan. As we are traveling around the world, we're consistently having conversations with our friends about what is happening with social media and misinformation and disinformation and the interference with our elections with this information. It is a new level of warfare that we are having to contend with. And right now, as I continuously talk about the cult known as Trump world, a lot of what we are experiencing is literally people have been brainwashed with so much misinformation and disinformation, and it goes so deep that we have people that are serving in the United States Congress that are literally taking their cues from people like Putin. So we had an oversight hearing where we laid out various posts that had been made by sitting members of Congress that were nothing more than propaganda that came out of Russia. Right. That is what we're dealing with. And so we're talking about people at the highest levels of the United States government that either are too ignorant to understand that they are literally becoming the puppets for someone like Putin.
That's right.
Or they just don't care. I don't really know, but either way, they have way too much power and they absolutely have way too large of a platform to be sitting where they are and being so irresponsible. So the one thing that I personally take it upon myself to do is to correct the record in real time.
That's right.
In real time.
Right.
I shut them down at every chance that I get with the lies that they come up with. So as we go into this election cycle, what I am charging you all with, because I can't fight everybody, is I need each and every one of you to understand that we have a responsibility to correct the record.
Right.
That is what we have a responsibility to do as good citizens of this country. Because there are those that try to act like we not even a part of this country when really we built it, that part. So to be clear, if we're going to specifically zone in on this election, because I am all the way in the zone and we only have about 78 days left, I want to make sure that I point out a couple of things that are specifically causing us problems within the black community, and that is around her record. The earliest polling showed that our vice president was not necessarily hitting Obama's numbers when it came to black folk. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that she's a prosecutor. Or a former prosecutor, let me be clear, because she is currently not prosecuting, because, anyway. But nevertheless, we love Fonnie Willis. Can we show some love for Fonnie? We love Fonnie. Fonnie is our kind of prosecutor, right? Go and take down Trump's people so long as the corrupt judges stay out of the way. Same thing with Letitia James. Same thing with Alvin Bragg. Same thing with any prosecutor that has had the audacity to say that if an officer kills one of us, I'm going to show you better than I can tell you that Black Lives Matter.
That's right.
This is the kind of prosecutor that Kamala Harris was before we even recognized that we needed that kind of prosecutor. So I want people to understand that, number one, there's all this stuff going around how she locked up everybody. Well, first of all, a prosecutor's job is to be a cop. I mean, I'm just saying. And some people got to go to prison. As a former criminal defense attorney, y'all, I'm just being honest. Some people got to go to jail. Okay. Let's clear that up, all right? But it's about what type of prosecutor. Are we talking about somebody that just because you walk in and you black, you absolutely about to get buried under the jail? Or is she going to give you a chance? Is she going to recognize your humanity? And that is what she has done. So she started the Back on Track program before we even knew what a progressive prosecutor was.
That's right.
What this was recognizing that in this world, the real world that we live in, if you end up with the F on your chest, you don't somehow become the most powerful person in the world, but instead you are denied access to housing, you are denied access to education, you are denied access to jobs. She understood that, and so she gave people another chance. That was a diversion program. That's number one. Number two, when it comes down to body cams, we all saw, please tell me you know the name Sonia Massey.
Yes.
Sonia Massey, the reason that we know that they killed her with no justification is because we had video footage. She was the very first person, the first attorney general in the country to order that her agency, a state agency, wear body cams. So you tell me if she is our kind of prosecutor. So as they go out and they spread this misinformation, I'm gonna need y'all to help me in correcting the record, and that's all I'm gonna say. I know, see, Bakari looking at me.
I'm gonna reclaim my time. Next, I wanna have one of all of our heroes who always is very smart and does a good word without even asking, but Dr. Frederick Haynes to give us a sobering reality of who he is and also his definition and the impact that he sees in his space with misinformation and disinformation, because I think one of the things that we haven't really honed in on is misinformation and disinformation aren't necessarily the same thing.
That's
but I will
right.
let you go ahead and take the people wherever you want them to go.
Right, thank you. And thank you for your leadership, man. You always show up
That's right.
for us, and we respect and appreciate you and all that you do. So one of the lessons that has been learned is that Marjorie Taylor Greene taught us you do not follow Jasmine Crockett. And so as her pastor, I feel at a disadvantage following her, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would testify you do not follow Jasmine Crockett because you have bleached blonde. Y'all got it. So y'all pray for me, because following my member, she's a member of my church, ain't something I want to do. But very seriously, I'm Frederick Douglass Ames III, senior pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. One of the things that we have been determined to do is to reunite in holy wedlock Jesus and justice, because they never should have been divorced. After all, justice ain't political, it's biblical. It's about restoring. It's about rebuilding. It's about reconnecting. It's about what Michael Eric Dyson says when he says that justice is what love sounds like when it speaks in public. And so we believe in justice when it comes to faith. It's very important that I establish that, because if justice is a part of my faith expression, then when you ask me about misinformation and disinformation, I serve a Savior who said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Now, if the truth sets you free, lies are a setup to lock you up. And that is the kind of world that we live in politically, one of misinformation, disinformation. Misinformation has to do with rumors. Disinformation has to do with the intent that is evil, the intent that is basically says, I'm lying, I know I'm lying, I don't care that I'm lying, but I have an agenda behind the lie to accomplish what it is I'm trying to do. That is disinformation. And so it is our understanding that we've got to combat all of that. Number one, we've got to combat it in the media. In the media. Last week, Michael Eric Dyson on CNN went viral because Michael Eric Dyson dared to defend black women in general and the black woman at the top of the Democratic ticket in particular, because someone decides, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's trying to become a Republican, she decides that she's going to call Kamala Harris out of her name, in essence, and then justified by saying, I can say whatever I want to say. We know about that. I'm so glad that my congresswoman goes on social media and says the problem is not just with Nancy Mace, it's with a media that will give a platform to someone who is about disinformation and misinformation, even when they look like us.
That's right.
And I got to say that, because if you're going to be a lapdog for lies as opposed to a watchdog that holds public officials accountable, then we don't need you serving in media, because you are a problem and we've got to call you out.
That's right.
But not just media, social media. I love Meek Mill. I respect Meek Mill, but Meek Mill is going to have to do what Meek Mill said in his song, Stay Woke. Meek Mill gets on his social media platform last week to question or bring up a rumor about the record of one Kamala Harris. And of course, we know Meek Mill's record. Meek Mill has been victimized by a criminal justice system that is unjust and downright criminal. So when he he speaks on his platform, Meek Mill has authority.
right.
But unfortunately, it's authority without knowledge. And if it's authority without knowledge, then you get up and spread rumors. One more thing to Kamala Harris's record. Kamala Harris, I'm from California, though I pastor in Texas. I know Kamala Harris. I knew her when she served as DA. They were talking in the 90s about getting tough on crime. It was Kamala Harris who then coined the phrase, no, we ain't gonna get tough on crime, we're gonna get smart on crime. Because it's not about locking black folk up, it's about keeping black folk who are criminalized and their bodies are weaponized out of the system before they get in the system. And then once they get in the system, we wanna make sure they don't stay in the system, continuously victimized by the system. That's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So Meek Mill, stay woke, my brother, stay woke. I'm just simply trying to say, as we do this thing, we combat misinformation and disinformation with trusted sources. I'm blessed because I've got a congresswoman who is about that truth life, and we need to connect with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, but also we got to call out folk in the media who platform folk who ain't about nothing but lies and disinformation. It's both and not either or.
That's right.
Well, we only got a couple more minutes, and I'm gonna have to use at least 10 seconds of those to apologize to Cedric Haynes, because I put you after.
You set me up.
I set you up. I ain't even realize it was an unintentional faux pas on my part. Listen, B is complete. Say a whole lot in very few words is what I'm trying to say. And then I'm going to get everybody to give a little final remark.
I got 3 words for you, what they said. What they said.
Leave well enough alone, but go ahead, my brother.
No, I couldn't add any more to that. I would just say that, you know, there's a lot of talk and trying to quantify and put words to what's happening, right? You got misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. At some point, there's going to be another information. But I think that what you said it best. It's lies. And anything that's used to deny, suppress, diminish the black vote is a problem. That's the commonality. It's a problem. And so when I look around this room and I think about my peer group, by show of hands, how many of us have some form of social media? And yes, LinkedIn counts. Right? So if you look at the numbers, 4 out of 5 black adults in the United States use social media.
That's right.
The numbers also tell us that 2 out of 3 of those adults sometimes use social media for their trusted news.
That's right. That's right.
So what does that mean? It means we're living in uncharted territory, right? Because there was a time when my folks would always tell me seeing is believing. That is no longer the case when it comes to this election. And a lot of what we're talking about is in the context of what's happening at the top of the ticket. Millions and millions of people voting. What we don't talk enough about when it comes to mis and disinformation or whatever we want to call it is the impacts that it's going to have in the down ballot races. Amen. Where the margins are thinner. So think about your council, think about your state representatives, the local votes. There's a very, very real chance that mis or disinformation could absolutely swing an election.
That's right.
And that's concerning. So it's incumbent on all of us to be the trusted messengers that we are and that we are expected to be. Because even though 60–70% of those adults say I sometimes use social media as my news source, even more of those adults trust their friends and their communities and word of mouth to receive information. So what do you do when your community is also receiving information for social media? So it's a tremendous problem. And again, just echoing everything that y'all said, I don't have to spend no more time on this.
Amen. So listen, first of all, I do want to say 2 things, a point of personal privilege. First, there are a lot of people in this room that I just utterly admire. And I know we've done it already, but I would just like to, one more time, if we've already done it, have the members of Congress who are in here with us in the CBC, I know I see a couple of them, just stand up for me real quick and just let us just shower them. And all the state and local officials, there's a lot in here, stand up. And the reason I do that often is because, you know, I'm from the South, and you know, down South we say you got to give people their flowers while they're living.
Right.
And oftentimes we only talk to our elected officials when we want to yell at them or we need something. We never say thank you. So listen, we're going to commercial break in a minute. I got to get Michael Eric Dyson up here and eat lunch. And for me, Reverend, you're going to have to pray for me because it's about margarita time for me. So I do want to start 2 sentences on solutions. I hate when we gather together as a people and we identify problems and nobody identifies a solution. So be quick, 30, 45 seconds. Give me a solution to the misinformation, disinformation we see. I'm going to end with you, Reverend. We're going to start right here.
Sure. Well, the first thing is understand your power and the responsibility you have as a leader in your own communities and in your own circles of influence, right? So make sure that you are yourself not reposting, resharing some of that, almost cursing for the pastor, I'm sorry, some of that foolishness that you see floating around. I'll give you some resources. If you're on social media, you follow the National Women's Law Center on Instagram, on the site formerly known as Twitter, on LinkedIn. We are on a pretty regular basis posting useful graphics and stats and things that you can use to share with your own folks in your communities to kind of combat some of this stuff, namely about women electeds and public officials, because we are the National Women's Law Center, and the Action Fund is in particular supporting combating misinformation, disinformation about the Vice President, but also about these women Senate candidates, y'all. We have some Black women running for Senate this year, not just in Maryland, also in Delaware. So please make sure you follow National Women's Law Center. Thank you, Bakari, so you can get some more information about ways that you can spread good information.
That was that producing you.
Thank you. Yes, I heard it. Thank you,
wrap
sir.
it up.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Real fast, if you're reading something and it sounds crazy, there's a chance that it is crazy. That's the plainest way I can say it. Look to your trusted messengers. The NAACP is and will continue to be a trusted messenger.
Right.
We have a wonderful civic engagement team who's been working very hard and creating programs to counter this sort of thing, misinformation and disinformation. I just want to say that, you know, it almost feels like I'm living in a science fiction novel sometimes when I see some of the crazy stuff that's coming out. But to put a finer point on it, just if you see something that seems too good or too crazy to be real, it's probably not real. Look to your trusted messengers and get out. You got to get out and vote.
Congresswoman.
I was just going to say, make sure that your trusted messenger should be trusted. That's number one. And then, you know, Pastor Haynes talked about the news media, and I did, you know, text Doc immediately when I saw what happened on CNN because I was so frustrated because I knew the truth about all of what was going on, especially with Nancy Mace, because she is racist. And if you Google, you'll find a YouTube of me going off on her talking about, anyway, nevertheless, so I would also say when it comes to the news, it is important that you try to get the news in as pure sense as possible. And so even when it comes to things that are happening in Congress, C-SPAN is really the best spot. I mean, I know that it's not dramatic and whatever, but you are hearing directly, it's not, there's no filter whatsoever. So then you don't have to rely upon what someone else has interpreted. Because the fact is, if you watch faux news, you're gonna get one story about what happened. You watch CNN, you'll get another, and then you watch MSNBC, and it'll probably be closest to the truth. That's just my opinion. But nevertheless, I knew that was gonna get Bakari. But nevertheless, really the best way to get your information is straight up on C-SPAN. And I'm gonna be honest. You know, YouTube has actually been doing a really good job with some of the sources, the people that are reporting on the news, because a lot of times they will take things directly, say, from committee or taking things directly from speeches that are happening various places so that you can hear it directly. We know right now Donald Trump has specifically said that he wants to make sure that there is some sort of immunity for police officers. And when it came down to him going in front of NABJ and being asked about it, he didn't really want to talk about it. But he has said that, so make sure you're just, forget the filters. Get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Right. Two things. One, this is the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer. we need to, in honor of Freedom Summer, have information or empowerment fall, where we go into our communities this fall to basically cancel bad information and bring good information. How? I want to suggest that we connect with the black church, not churches with black people, but the black church. The black church that recognizes its responsibility is not just to gather, but in a real sense to impact the community. And if we partner with and again, we can do it legally. This is my congresswoman. She can give us information. You can give information to those black churches who you know are about that justice life. And that because the black church still has the most people showing up on Sunday as well as tuning in. And that black church then has a responsibility to spread the truth so that we can combat the lies. So those are two things I want to suggest that we can do.
Everybody under the age of 35 in this room, stand up.
That's right.
Give yourself a round of applause. Give him a round of applause. That is not, I want you to know that's not the future, that's the right now.
Okay.
And a lot of these young people on the front lines doing the work, and we need to encourage them and make sure that they're in rooms like this, listening to people like Jasmine Crockett, listening to people like this panel, listening to their elected officials, and most importantly, listening to somebody who is a hero of mine who's coming up here next as we exit, none other than Reverend Michael Eric Dyson.
Did you guys get the good information? Aren't they wonderful? Have this been educational? That's what I try to do, is give you information. Now we're gonna have the baddest black poster in the country. Cornell Belcher, you probably see him on CNN and MSNBC. He's gonna share information for us to let us know where it's important for us to work the hardest in getting our votes out. Cornell, he's somewhere around here. So please take your seats. This is wonderful. If you're gonna tell the people that left, like last night, that they missed it, okay? And while I'm here, I think the youngest county executive, black county executive in the history in Milwaukee, his name is David Crowley. Can you stand up? The first black leader elected to the role in the county exec in Crowley in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Are you in the house? Where are you at? Can you wave? Stand up and wave if you're here. Okay. Is Cornell coming?
I'm here.
Right here. Here he is, you guys. The baddest guy in the world.
I appreciate it. I'm going to run through some data for you because that's what I do. I'm a pollster. I run through data. And it's not going to be as sexy as the and as interesting as the other panels, but hopefully it's informative. You know, I'm picking up on some of the themes that I've heard here today, and I actually sort of, you know, one of my favorite albums growing up was Fear of a Black Planet, and it's become to fruition as it's become Fear of the Black Vote. And if you listen to what the panels were talking about earlier today, about sort of the voter suppression that's happening and sort of the attacks on voting and the purging of voters from the voter file, it's fear of the power of the brown vote. And you have to understand, we are the majority right now, right? If you look at the coalition that Obama had, the coalition that Biden had, and the coalition that the vice president's going to have, we are in fact the majority if we turn out and vote. One of the, you know, I had the pleasure of working on both of the Obama campaigns, and in 2008,
You know, the idea of electing an African American with a Muslim sounding name who had just been in the Senate for a little while was a crazy thought. But from the very beginning of that conversation, then Senator Obama talked about building a movement. And as you all know, a movement isn't just about politics. A movement is cultural, it is spiritual, it is bigger than just politics. And there's a women's rights movement, women's suffrage movement, there's a civil rights movement. Movements are bigger things. And so I was drawn to this ideal of building a movement. And the movement was about changing the face of the electorate. And most of you will remember there was a conversation on almost every news outlet and almost every newspaper after the 2008 election about America's post-racial. A lot of post-racial conversations. I was in Paris when I found out America's post-racial. Because the French kept coming up to us after the 2008 election, congratulating us for overcoming racial barrier, for breaking racism in America. I know, it's kind of hilarious. But it wasn't a racial breakthrough. It wasn't a post-racial breakthrough. It was a breakthrough, but it was a demographic breakthrough. The difference between John Kerry losing an election before and Barack Obama winning with a majority in the election just thereafter wasn't a racial breakthrough, it was a black power breakthrough. The difference between that election and John Kerry's election was about 5 million more people of color, about 5 million more black people. This is one of my favorite graphs that I love to lecture on throughout the, I love to lecture on, because some of us need to level set. And the truth of the matter is, Democrats have not won a majority of white voters since LBJ signed the civil rights legislation, and he said, there goes the South. What he really could have said was, there goes the white vote. Not for a decade, but quite frankly, several decades. And if you look at this graphic, you can see that we have not won white voters since that time. And you would think that we'd be getting closer to parity, that line would be coming closer, that we'd be winning more white voters, but we're not. We're not winning more white voters. I mean, look at what Barack Obama did in 12 in the re-elect, 39%, on his way to another majority, right? That's the power of the changing face of the American electorate. That's the power of the brown vote. And right now, in the latest polling, Harris is garnering approximately 42% of the white vote. Now, you know, I talk to reporters and they like, just 42% of the white vote? I'm freaking ecstatic she's at 42% of the white vote. Freaking ecstatic she's at 42% of the white vote. I mean, Barack Obama got 39%. Ecstatic because you and I know, quite frankly, she probably won't get much more than 42% of the white vote. But therein lies the thing. To show the tremendous power and the difference that's happening in this country, you'll remember when America was great. Ronald Reagan on a horse, Nancy Reagan in the White House, America was great. 59%, Ronald Reagan got 59% of the white vote in 1980, and it was a complete landslide, one of the largest landslides we've seen in modern time, right? 59% of the white vote. Mitt Romney got 59% of the white vote, and it was a landslide in the other direction. That's the power that you all have. That's the power of the changing face of America. And that's the power that we have to realize every election, but it's hard, right? And actually, I remember being back then I was on CNN, and all of the Republican pundits were, and the Romney, I had friends that were working on the Romney campaign, we'd done work with them in corporate stuff, and they thought for sure Romney was going to win because they knew they matched Ronald Reagan's number among white voters, and they didn't think that brown people would show back up the way they did in 2008. They said they don't have the energy a motivation that you had in '08. They thought that '08 was an outlier and that the election was good, the electorate was going to look like 2004 again. I knew it wouldn't. We got to stay in the game. Now, here's a little secret that I don't think some of our Trump friends understand. America's not getting whiter. America is not getting whiter. And in fact, every election now, every presidential election now, the electorate should be about 2 or 3 points browner. So you see here in 2020 where it was, 66, 67%? If we do what we're supposed to do, that electorate probably should be around 64% white. It's shrinking. And as it shrinks, the power of the voters of color come more online. That's why they're trying to stop you from voting. But here's the thing. Here's turnout. And this is what these numbers sort of really mean. As America changes, look, you see 2018 was an outlier because we had not seen that sort of turnout in a midterm before, right? Typically in a midterm, you get roughly in the low 40s. And Republicans were able to generate wave elections, right? I was around in 2010. Most of you were around in 2010. You know that was an ass kicking. That was a wave. We lost big seats in 2010. We lost seats in 2014. Look at where the turnout is. But look at what happened in the turnout in 2018. Look at what happened in the turnout, didn't reach 2018, but look at what happened in the turnout in 2022, when they were supposed to have, again, another red wave. As their share of the electorate shrinks, the larger the turnout, the more difficult, if not impossible, it becomes for them to generate a wave because they're not a majority. It becomes harder and harder for them to generate a majority. When was the last time a Republican actually won a majority in this country? Right, I'll wait. It's been a while. Nonetheless, a back-to-back. And it's going to be even a longer time because the numbers are going in the wrong direction for them. But here's the problem, and this is what we got to do. In 2008 and 2012, in the shadow of anniversary of the civil rights legislation, the black voter in America became the most likely voter in the country. Amen. It's important. The most likely voter in the country looked like you. And that was powerful. What's happened since then? We got to do better. We got to do better. Yes, we will do better. Because if the black voter is the most likely voter in this coming election, with the growth and the share of the brown electorate, again, I'm not doing spin, I'm just doing math. They can't generate a majority. They cannot win. They cannot win. The simplest thing I'll tell you about the election, there's, a lot of us on television, my professor's on television all the time, we do a lot of spinning and there's a lot of breaking down. It's as simple as this. If our turnout comes anywhere close to 65, 66, 67%, it's done. It's done. Because they literally can't get there. It's just that simple. It is on us. And part of the conversation earlier was about how young voters don't think they have power, right? They don't think they have power, and they don't think their vote matters or think the vote counts. What we have to have them understand is, look, there's not a more powerful, more relevant voter anywhere in the world than that 23, 24-year-old African-American woman or 23, 24-year-old African-American man walking around Atlanta. You know why? Because that 23 or 24-year-old has the power to decide who is the president of the United States and therefore the ruler of the Western world. That 23-year-old in China can't do that. That 24-year-old in Paris can't do that. There is no more powerful young person in the world than a young person of color walking around these states. And they got to understand their power. Now, some context. I don't know if you all noticed, but some things have changed over the last couple of weeks. And I'm beginning to sort of see in the data, and you can feel it, a movement that's perhaps afoot. Something's happening that feels and looks different. Now, as an Obama alum, be careful, because, you know, we take it real personal when you start talking about movements and energy. But so don't tell my Obama alum friends and family, but this feels like '08. When you look at how in the national polling, and I've never seen this as a pollster, in the span of 3 weeks, the vice president has gone from a net negative favorable to a net positive favorable. That never happens. It just doesn't happen. And it wasn't like we all spent $100 million in 3 weeks to change it. No, it was you who changed it. It was you who changed it. It was you who took it to your communities. It was you who did the videos. It was you on Facebook. It was you uplifting Harris. It wasn't the well-paid media consultants making fancy ads. No, it was you, the grassroots. And in the end, it's going to be you, the grassroots, that takes her over the top. Motivation. You hear a lot of conversation about motivation. Pieces of this are moving in place. Because in some cases, I'm seeing, if you go back to and this is African-American voters here, if you go back to 2 months ago when I was asking this measure among African-Americans in battlegrounds, it did not look like 2020. It looked similar to 2016. Now it's moving in the right direction. But we still got work to do. Because you know who's still not well positioned for mobilization? Still our younger voters. And particularly our younger male voters, who we've got to do a better job of reaching and talking to. On the importance of the election, another key measurement. I've seen this number increase by tenfold. It's coming, it's beginning, some of the numbers are really beginning to sort of get in line and look like they looked in '08. I know I get in trouble for saying that. When we ask voters about the importance of the elections, why they think it's more important now, it's about the candidate, but it's also about Trump. Also over the last month or so, people have been seeing more and more of Trump, and I didn't think he could get any less popular, but he's growing even less popular. When you ask about racism in America, and this is the sort of thing, I know some of my pundit friends want to say, oh, it's the economy, it's always the economy. It's the economy, Cornell, it's the economy, and we have all these conversations about the economy. No, for us, it's the racism, stupid. It is the racism. And we understand that racism is tied to economics. So you can't even have a conversation with us about economics unless you understand the context of racism. This is actually one of the sad numbers for me, because go back a decade, 2 decades ago, we didn't see this, where there's such a vast majority of us think that racism is growing worse in this country, right? Because it is. And you talk in focus groups with voters, and particularly voters of color, and they understand that racism seems to be afoot again. It seems to be okay to be racist again. And that is a primary consideration for black voters. So yes, you got to meet these voters where they are, and it's meeting them where on the racism. When we ask them what the election should be about, it's about going forward. It's about not going backwards. Sort of a big thematics about what the election should be about, right? Yeah, it's about the economy, but it's also about bigger things. And little side note, I know for my friends in the press, it's easiest to drive this economy determines. I don't know an election where the economy was an important election. It's always an important issue, but there's bigger things afoot right now. When we ask the African American voters in battleground states, what's the greatest threat to their community? What's the greatest threat to our community right now? And this number has been growing over the last couple of months. It's becoming to understand that, quite frankly, again, sure it's the economy, but it's also the racism stupid. And I don't care what kind of economic policy you have, if we don't have political power, and people trying to strip away our voting rights, and people coming after our community, it's not about our economic policy, it's about something larger. Now, even for our Democratic friends, and I want them to understand this, even for them, when you test the economic, sort of typical Democrat economic stance versus the Democrat who's fighting racism, the majority of African Americans fall on the side of race, the candidate fighting racism. Now, understand also at the same time, there's no more an economically anxious voter in the country than an African American voter, but it's about the racism. One of the things that I do want to point out here, and again, this is amazing because I've never seen this before. This is among African Americans in the battleground states, where over the last couple of weeks, the vice president's numbers have jumped in a way that are historic. Black folks are rallying around her in a way that is quite frankly historic. However, we still got a lot of work to do. We still got a lot of work to do. Now, she is right now in the battleground states among African Americans. I love Joe Biden. We honor Joe Biden. But she is beginning to solidify the vote in a way among young people and brown people in a way that they were holding back for Joe. And over the last couple of weeks, you know, this number, she's about 10, 12 points better than where Joe Biden was 3 months ago when we asked the same question among African American voters. Now, we're still a ways from Obama 2012, but that's the goal, right? And that number is in this third party voting. It's in the third party and the undecided voting. Now, who are these voters who are still hanging on the fence, undecided third party voting? They're younger, less educational attainment, less likely to be tuning into information. They're not seeing the doctor on CNN. We got to reach them in a different way, but they are reachable. But here is the problem here is the problem because we have to reach them. It's 2016 again. That same cohort, when I was doing data in 2016, and this is from the aftermath of the exits, Hillary was off Obama's margins in most of these battleground states, but also just in the demographics of these young voters. She was off Obama's margin by almost the exact percentage that young people, black and brown young people in particular, are voting third party, the protest vote. This is why we still have work to do. We're moving in the right direction, but we still have work to do because this is how Trump wins. Trump doesn't win by addition, he wins by subtraction. So what are they trying to do right now? They're trying to divide black men from black women. They're going after younger black men hard with a lot of misinformation. We've got to lean in because he knows just as well as I do. And again, it's not about them voting for him. It's about them taking the off-ramp. It's about them being disillusioned and taking the off-ramp. So when we ask these undecided voters, what is it looking to hear? They simply want more information. We're not reaching them. They simply want more information. It's not like they love Donald Trump, because they don't. But they're not in love with Democrats either. Amen. And I'm giving you a lot of data, but you all are smart people. But when you look at that last row there, that last column there, that's low. Those are voters who are low, have sort of on the low motivation scale. And what you notice about this is, on almost every issue or character trait or value, Democrats are largely undefined. They don't necessarily think Democrats are fighting for them or their communities. We got a job to do to turn that around, because if you look at what Biden and the vice president have been doing and been fighting for, again, I'm an Obama guy, so I got to be careful. But I think Biden-Harris has a better story to tell in the re-elect than we did in 12. Shh, don't get me in trouble. But when you look at the black unemployment, when you look at the job creation, when you look at the business creation, when you look at the historic investments in HBCUs, when you look at your family at the cookout on Juneteenth, when you look at the black woman Supreme Court Justice, he has a damn good story to tell black people about, specifically about black people. Now, this is something that's at a particular annoyance to me, because this is what I'm talking about. It is this conversation about how black men are failing, right? And it's bullshit. If you look back over the and it's cherry picking some polling. Y'all I'm a pollster, but y'all pay way too much attention to polls. Polls are going to continue to move. They're cherry picking certain polls. Truth of the matter is, on election day, when you look at the poll, the actual how they're voting, the average over the last 4 decades has been roughly 14% voting Republican. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that a candidate who most of us understand is racist is somehow going to break a historical mark of over 20%. Better than George Bush, who actually kind of had an outreach effort. No. And this is the part that really galls me. Because the truth of the matter is, black men vote more like black women than almost any demographic group. So what the hell's behind this story, this narrative? Men vote differently than women across the board, but the difference between black men and black women voting is the smallest there is in the demographics. So we got work to do, but we're not beating up on our black men about this conversation. We're not beating up our black men. We got work to do, but we're not beating up and pitting one against the other. Now, this is the issue, and I'm going to end it here, because this is the work we have to do. Because this encapsulates what I hear in focus groups all the time. And is that Democrats show up, they have great policy, great ideals, and we're like, yes, we want those policies. I hear in focus groups all the time how I voted for Joe Biden because of student loan debt. And then I hear he's done nothing around student loan debt. And I have to scratch my head. Thank you. Talk to your friends. So it's this cyclical thing about cynicism, where they vote for something, they don't think they get anything out of the vote, So why am I voting? My vote doesn't have power, and then Republicans come in and fill the void with misinformation. If I hear another focus group participant, sort of young person, talking about these houses that the government are giving immigrants, y'all laugh, I hear it. They're literally giving houses to immigrants, is what they've been told. Shit's crazy. We've got to do a better job of meeting these young voters where they are. And like every other panel showed you and talked about you earlier today, it's increasingly on social media. It's increasingly in your hands, the power. Look, this campaign is going to spend a lot of money on television. But you all are more powerful than the media consultants making ads on television. The most powerful things that has moved Vice President Harris over his last 3 weeks hasn't been anything that a media consultant has made. It's been those videos and those memes that you all been making and been lifting her up. Continue to lift her up. And let's mobilize and turn out. Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh, you are just awesome. You're just so awesome. Is he awesome or what? Isn't he awesome? Ooh, maybe we may have you back on Wednesday.
Data's awesome.
What? Well, this is our last voice because he got 3 minutes. I want to introduce my team here to Dewana, Aisha, Tammy Davis, Will, all my executive team. Will, stand up, Coleman, who is my co-chair for helping me do all these events this week. Thank you, Will. Thank all of you DNC members. Dr. Eric Dyson gonna shut us down, okay?
Y'all know what it is. You know what time it is. I'm just reinforcing what you done already heard. It's all about that black woman, because black women run the world already. We know that black women are in charge, and we love it. For those who are mad that Kamala ain't doing what you want her to do, imagine a world where an orange apparition has assaulted your sensibilities. We done seen what this man gonna do, and he's threatening to do more. We know what January 6th is. It's always January 6th on our calendar because we see people wilding out every day because they ain't getting what they thought they deserved. So a vote for Kamala is a vote for not only black women, it's a vote for American democracy. It's a vote for best in class of what we represent. Two things and I'm gonna be gone. First of all, for those who are mad that Kamala is a prosecutor or was a prosecutor, you heard the Congresswoman already say, we got neighborhoods where we depend upon the intervention of the police state in order to preserve some kind of dignity. We're not trying to celebrate lawlessness. We just want the cops, when they show up, to understand that we are American citizens and don't be shooting us and don't be killing us and don't be murdering us. Number two, some people are mad because Kamala ain't got a black man. You had a chance to put a ring on it. You didn't. The white boy stood up. Number three, y'all think, oh my God, you upset with what's going on in the Middle East, so am I. You understand the vicious indifference to the lives of people who have been minoritized, I get it. But if you think that's a trouble now, if you elect somebody else beyond her, what do you think is going to happen? So let's understand that Kamala Harris ain't Jesus, but what she is a political candidate who is far better than this orange other side we got going on. And let me end by saying this. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, because it's going to get rough. And as I end all the time, and Freddie Haynes said it yesterday, quoting me, but I'm going to quote myself. When Kamala Harris is inaugurated on King Day by Ketanji Brown Jackson and her name is Kamala. That's the KKK I like, and that's what we need. Peace.
Okay, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Come early. We got a great team. We got a great team for Wednesday. Y'all gonna miss it if you don't show up.